ends the end of our public comment period. I'd like to switch this over to you.
Urban, on your hearing procedures, you indicated that if anybody wanted a second chance to speak, you might give it if time permitted. Are you going to open it up for that at this point to see if anybody wanted to speak?
Any of the previous speakers, would they like to speak again? Okay.
If not, then Urban, I think you can entertain a motion by your board to close the public hearing.
And I have a motion for that. Okay.
Second.
Second? Okay.
A question. You said that you were going to acknowledge the written correspondence, so you're just going to say there is written correspondence, or you're
Yeah.
going to make some note about what's said? Or?
I will tell you, these will be in the office for anybody to look at. There are 12 of them, and they all are in favor of the moratorium. Any other discussion before I ask for a vote?
Are we going to discuss it before we?
What about reading the moratorium?
Just to
gotta
vote to
change?
close the public
Oh,
comment.
okay.
Well, once you close the public hearing, you can open your special meeting and have that discussion.
Okay. We will have discussion after our regular or special session. Okay. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
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 Okay. Now I'd like to open the our special meeting, and is there board discussion on the matter?
I'd like to take a few minutes if I could.
Yep.
I mean, we're here tonight to pass a moratorium on a wind law, and I know you've all read this, so it's just going to be short. This is my personal opinion. This is in our Association of Town magazine, and the full context is on the website. It reads, State Power Plant Siting Law, Article 10 of the Public Service Law Summary. The Power New York Act of 2011, Chapter 388, signed into law on August 4th, 2011, renewed Article 10 of the Public Service Law, thereby preempting the local planning and zoning procedures with respect to larger scale power generating facilities, including renewable energy sources such as industrial wind towers. And just to add to that, the membership on the siting board, Public Service Law, the New York State Board on Electric Generation Siting and Environment, which shall be in the department and consist of 7 positions. And on this board will be the chair of the Public Service Department, who shall serve as chair of the board, the Commissioner of Environmental Conservation, the Commissioner of Health, the chair of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, the Commissioner of Economic Development, and ad hoc public members. Ad hoc public members serve on the siting board to hear an application on a power plant located in their county. In addition to that, and I don't know if you've done this yet, Urban, Public Service Law 161, if the application is to site a power plant to be located in a town outside village, the chief executive officer of the town has the authority to nominate 4 candidates to serve as an ad hoc member on a state siting board for an application to site a power plant in the town. And that has to be submitted to the Senate and the Speaker of the Assembly. I don't know if you've even taken names or if anybody's expressed any interest. Okay. So this is just a lot of this is just my personal opinion. So there is a law already on the books for industrial power, industrial wind towers. I could support a moratorium for personal wind towers for 6 months. If that's, if we're ever going to stop the bleeding and heal this town, we've got to get out of the industrial wind tower business, and we can. We have a law. We have a state law. I support updating the planning laws, and I support updating the comprehensive plan. But we have a law already on the books, New York State, and in the board I read to you, I mean, you've got all those members and all the resources to go with that. And I realize that the market right now is for wind power. There's none there. A lot of it is driven by the hydraulic fracturing for natural gas, also called fracking. And as you know, that's become an issue not just here in New York, but across the United States. And I'll just read you a couple short things on that. The unconventional gas production. 2011 Cornell University study found that burning shale gas releases more greenhouse gas pollution than burning conventional gas or oil, methanol, formaldehyde, and other known air pollutants found near fracking sites. Texas regulators have also found air samples near the wells contain high levels of neurotoxins, carcinogens, and benzene. And along with that, New York State hasn't decided whether they're going to allow future fracking. If they don't, if the Governor Cuomo and his committees rule against further fracking in New York State, this is my belief, wind and solar, again, will be sought after clean alternative energy sources. And I think Article 10, the law that's already there, would make us a neutral party, but we still would have ad hoc committee members that could express the opinions of the town, and we could start to heal this town. If not, I don't ever see it healing. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just like to say, with respect to Article 10, that deals with everything above 25 megawatts, but we could still very well have some industrial development. Some people apply through our planning board on a local level for an industrial development. Yes, you're not going to have 135 or 140 of them, but you very well might have an application for 10, 12, or up to 20, depending on how they're configured. That so, it still it behooves a community to, if they don't have anything on the books, that you really have to provide some basis and some regulation for this. And furthermore, as you go through Article 10, it doesn't say, in fact, that they usurp all local law, and that says it takes a look at it and finds out if it's reasonable and it isn't unduly burdensome to the deciding board. So all of this says, in effect, too, even though we have in Article 10, the game has changed, that it's still very important for communities to update their zoning. If they haven't done anything to provide guidelines and that type of thing, it really should. It's incumbent on all of us to do that.
I would also add that New York State is still a home state, and I think we have an obligation to exercise home rule. If it's going to be usurped, then it'll be usurped, but we're still going to let them know how we feel.
I'd like to enter a comment too.
Yeah.
I just think that you have to put in the context that the comprehensive plan is supposed to be updated every so often, and the zoning law is supposed to be updated every 5 years. And we're delinquent actually on both of those. The wind projects are large enough physically that they're going to have an impact on the town overall. They certainly have a potential impact. And I think if you step back and look at the laws that cover preserving communities, you have to look at the Historic Preservation Act from the 60s and the secret laws in New York State, and all of these call for input from interested parties in such a way that potentially adverse impacts can be identified and resolved if possible and mitigated, and then decide whether or not a project is valid or not. At this particular point, wind has come in as something that's very new. It's so new that I really think, despite the fact that there are some projects around the U.S., that we need to step back and take a look at what it is and have an emphasis on input from the local community. What makes Cape Vincent Cape Vincent? We have magnificent resources here. We are an international community with aesthetics all along the lake and the river. We have a blend of magnificent historic preservation properties, and we need to make all of that known by bringing these things up to date. This moratorium will give us the chance to do that. It will give us the focus to do that. I've been recently registered as a stakeholder with the Public Service Commission and talked to them about this. There's a focus on behalf of the state to reach out to communities and talk to them, but there's a burden from the community to do this. We need to perfect our comprehensive land plan, and we need to perfect our zoning law in order to be able to be responsible to the community. All of these things sound like very idealistic things. things and very nice things. But if you take a look at them, you'll also see that our assessment lies underneath all of these aesthetic assets. So it's something that I think is an obvious thing to do. Some people are very cynical about this, an attempt to stop wind. I really see it as a negative action, simply saying we're going to stop, we're going to step back, we're going to engage in an analytical process, an inclusive analytical process, and very focused on the common good.
Further discussion? You want
If I could. Yeah, much simpler on my end. The public has asked for a moratorium. There was a petition with 800 names some years ago, and that petition was not even looked at. We have that in front of us, as well as we have 16 people that have commented in favor of a moratorium against 3 people that commented against the moratorium. I feel I have no choice. If I'm representing the people of Cape Vincent and I have that many people that are in favor of this, then I have to vote for it.
Okay. We need to discuss the moratorium itself now, not the reasons for or against. But I'd ask Mark Gibo to take over in this part and see if there are any changes or additions or whatever to the moratorium that we might be suggested by the board.
Since the time the moratorium was proposed at your last meeting, there was a comment made by, I think somebody on your board, I'm not sure who, about adding some language which would pick up a reference to third-party utility companies, so that it's for distribution not only to customers but also to third-party utility companies. That was one change. And then there was also the question if it was going to be for 7 months, whether we would take it through instead of August 31, since we're here on February 7th, if instead of August 31 we would use a September 7th date. So those 2 changes were suggested. I don't know if the board wants to think about those. If you were going to make those changes, you would also have to consider whether you believe those to be major changes which might require a new hearing, or whether you consider them to be minor changes which would not.
Well, I think we do need that language in that, at the end of that one section where you're talking, the first sentence where it says wind generating facilities, you really, at the end of that, after customers, you have to have or third-party utility companies, that additional phrase. And as far as moving the date to September 7th, I think that's reasonable, and either one of those changes I don't think changes the moratorium substantively enough to have another hearing.
So I guess I need to hear the rest of the board weigh in on that a little bit to know if those are things you want to do.
Well, okay, then let's present that as a motion.
I will resolve to make those changes.
To amend the language to include those changes?
The language to include those changes was adding or third-party utility companies to the end of that sentence that ends with customers right now, and also to change the date to September 7th, 2012 instead of August 31st.
Do we vote on that, and then
Well,
on a
this is
separate?
just to amend the text. If somebody wants to second that, they can amend the text.
I have Brooks seconded.
Brooks
We'll
already
give a
did?
second to that, yeah.
Okay, further discussion? In favor?
All right.
Aye. No.
Aye.
Aye.
If you feel that you're prepared then to move ahead with this, the next thing you have to do is to look at the State Environmental Quality Review Act part of this. Short environmental assessment form was prepared and submitted at your last meeting. You now have to classify the action as either type 1, type 2, or unlisted. I can tell you that the type 2 list under the secret regulations does list the passage of the moratorium as a type 2 action. Unless your board feels there's something else more significant or outside of that, I think it would be appropriate for there to be a motion to declare it a type 2 action.
May I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
That it be a type 2 action.
Motion now will be a type 2 action.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, your second. Okay, discussion on that motion? In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Then the next thing would be, just covered basis, to make a negative declaration that the passage of the moratorium will not have a significant detrimental environmental.
Do you understand that? This calls for
Sure.
a negative declaration.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that will have a negative environmental impact.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion? In favor? Aye.
No.
Aye.
Then if you're prepared to move ahead with the moratorium as amended, somebody would need, I think there's a resolution that I think Michelle was working on today.
You want to read that?
This is resolution number 16, that the town board of the town of Cape Vincent hereby agrees to adopt local law number 1 of 2012 with respect to a moratorium on wind generating facilities. The moratorium shall be in place for a period of 7 months. 7 months to allow the town board to consider and implement sufficient regulations.
Want to do a roll call?
Roll call vote, Supervisor Urban Hershey,
Yay.
Councilman Brooks Bragdon,
Yes.
Councilman Mickey Orvis,
No. But you never had anybody move on it either, Michelle.
you're right.
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Urban Hershey,
Aye.
Councilman Brooks Bragdon,
Yes.
Councilman Mickey Orvis,
No.
Councilman Cliff Schneider,
Aye.
Councilman John Verne,
Yes.